Hello, Curtis.
Hey Mel, how's it going, man?
Going really well. How's Canada today?
Uh, Beautiful and free. I don't know. I don't know how to.
Wave your flag.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Canada is awesome. Where I am currently, Alabama is pretty awesome today. Although it's going to be 93 with 600% relative humidity. So that's what we do down here. Hey, welcome to our podcast. We should say first episode of Under the Hoodie. Um, a name that we came to based on a long list of potential names for this podcast. And I think it's the one that we disliked the least. So,
Yeah.
and then time caught up to us and we needed something. But since you're a big fan of the hoodie, nicely done, by the way, branding, wearing a hoodie today, it seemed to make sense.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think it's when you say hated the least, I think that is understating it. The other ones are all terrible.
It's not unlike coming up with a band name. As you know, I play music, and I've been in several bands in my musical history, and it's just an impossible task to come up with a band name because you start out with, hey, you know what? It really doesn't matter because what does pick a band, and ultimately the band becomes the name, not the other way around.
Back.
Right, good starter. Fine young Canadian lads, right? Nickelback,
For sure. Yeah, yeah, 100%.
the much maligned uh band Nickelback. I think they're making a comeback actually.
They are. Yeah, I don't know. They get a lot of hate for no reason. I mean, come on.
For no reason. Come on, let's not go crazy here. Um anyway, let's not deviate too early, too soon. We got plenty of time for that. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? You want to you frame it and I'll frame it so we can let our audience know what this is going to be about.
So I think we're here just to talk about, AI in a very general sense. I mean, we may relate it back to real estate at some point. Um, but I don't know, just two dudes talking about AI, what's new, what's happening, what excites us, what scares us. Yeah, I think
Well said. I couldn't have done any better. I come from the angle of a user, of someone who is deeply interested in AI, and at kind of an inflection point in my career, I think, where I have the ability to kind of take a pause and learn as much as I can as quickly as I can to then integrate whatever tools that are being developed into my daily workflow. I think a lot of people are in that position. Like, hey, I better figure this out quickly. And then you come from the maker slash producer slash bleeding edge of AI. I mean, like you create it, so you have the user, you have the creator, um, and I think we have the grounds for a pretty interesting series of conversations.
yeah. And if not, we'll have no subscribers and we'll just cancel the damn thing. So, what?
Right. I mean, I feel like that our family, at the very least, would put us on in the background while they're doing other things just to get the stream count above zero.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, doing the dishes or, vacuuming so they really can't hear it.
Right.
Yeah.
Uh, like I said, it's told you I'm a musician and my band has a Spotify presence. And so we make every attempt to build streams. And so you end up pulling out all the stops, like you're texting friends from high school you haven't talked to in years. Like, hey, I did this. Please listen constantly. Anyway, we'll figure this out as we go along. But look, thanks for doing this. I think this is a great service. I think to our industry, specifically the real estate kind of little narrow sliver of real estate technology, MLSs, associations, and so forth. And then hopefully there's a broader audience for people who are just kind of interested in what's going on in AI and how it's going to affect them positively or negatively going forward. So let's get started. Why don't, just to set the stage here, and we'll probably have to say something about this at every episode to reframe who we are in case people catch us in episode 5 versus sometimes people don't listen to the podcast in a linear way, but introduce yourself, maybe longer form for this episode, on who you are, what you do, how you came into AI to begin with.
Yeah, so I guess I'm Curtis. I'm a nerd. I'm a geek. Uh, been doing techie stuff for a long time. I have a couple degrees, one in photonic engineering, so lasers and all that bullshit. Sorry, all that shit. Can you swear on a podcast?
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah. All right. It's not PG. All right. Um, but I like how I cut the bull part out of it. Not the
You
shit
did
part.
it right.
Like,
Acknowledging the animal that you didn't want to offend any bulls out there.
right? Ridiculous. Okay. And then I have another degree in interactive multimedia design. So what I wanted to do with that was build Flash games back in the day. Um, that failed spectacularly. I mean, I did some really nice stuff for some pretty cool clients, but Flash died very quickly. Thanks, Apple. Yeah. Um, so then I had to switch careers. So I did some development. I did a lot of consulting. I did a lot of data analytics and that type of thing. I ended up working for the Canadian Real Estate Association for a while, about 15 years as a consultant. And then I worked for the FBI for about 5 years as a consultant doing their data analytics there. And in 2018, I decided, hey, you know what? That all sucks. Let's start an AI business without knowing anything about AI. So I sold my companies and did that. I told my wife, hey, look, we're having our first child in a few months. I'm going to get rid of my single source of income and we're going to be broke for a bit. Let's do it. I've been building AI tools since. Yeah.
But I mean, even in 2018, I think the writing was kind of on the wall that this was going to be something special. Maybe especially in the circles that you were kind of used to running in. The rest of the world was kind of doing, business as usual. You identify that machine learning and artificial intelligence, two terms. We may get into this, later episodes, like the difference between those two things. But you found you needed to place your bet on something that was going to be the next thing. Maybe having learned your lesson from Flash, having that suddenly pulled out from under you, you needed to come up with something that was a little more, I don't know, durable.
Yeah, honestly, for me, it was just I wanted to do something rewarding. So I guess my initial, I was working for the FBI at the time, doing data analytics and like their crime stats and that type of thing. Very depressing work. We were going to have our first kid. I wanted to wake up in the morning and feel like, hey, I'm actually contributing to the world. I saw voice technology, which was kind of cutting edge AI at the time, was voice, as a really amazing tool for data accessibility. And I had this idea that if we could kind of scale that and make data accessible to everyone just by speaking to it, the world would be a better place. People would be much smarter. It would get rid of all these barriers to education and all that fun stuff. Ultimately, my grand idea did not pan out because no one's going to pay me money for grand ideas. But I'm still excited. We're still building cutting edge AI models. We're still making data accessible, we are as a team, but just on a smaller scale. So, maybe we'll get to that grand idea eventually, but
yeah. Okay. Good segue into
what's your background, Bill? Come on.
Yeah, well, I was, I've been doing real estate technology for 20, and we're coming up on the 26th anniversary here in about 4 months. I started by accident. I have one degree and barely that, a communications major, and started working for an ad agency, writing ads, designing ads, and so on for a little while. Then my brother, Matt Fowler, who's in the industry that we kind of, hang out in, we were an MLS software provider, and I did the marketing and the support and a lot of other stuff because, it was a very small startup. We had a great product, and the business went crazy overnight, and then we went crazy overnight because we did not have a team big enough to accommodate a lot of the stuff, especially on the support and anyway, so I did that for 12 years and then went to work for Zillow, went to work for Compass, did some consulting, and now here I am. But in 2018, I had no idea what AI was. You hear about this stuff, you see movies, and you assume that at some point you're going to be like, Jean-Luc Picard and say, okay, computer, do stuff. And that's going to happen at some point, but I didn't realize it was going to happen as quickly as it did. So while you were building I was actually probably playing your Flash games while you were, considering the next strategy. But it wasn't really until fairly recently that I started taking AI seriously and stopped. It's like you reach a point where you're no longer afraid, and you really discover what kind of productivity can be achieved with things like ChatGPT. And my first experience with ChatGPT was through my kids around just kind of screwing around with it and making funny things. And then it became pretty obvious that I do a lot of analysis in my work, a lot of paperwork, a lot of, drone work, repetition and so on. And it changed my life. Within a couple of days, it became completely my business partner. And that was not too long ago. So I guess the first question I would have for you from a user perspective to a creator would be, you know, based on what you know and what you feel like, where you feel like this technology is going, is there such a thing as being too late to this game? I mean, let me frame that this way: like the adoption curve that we're familiar with. You have your early adopters, and you're like your great, adoption. Then you have the laggards at the end. Can people afford to be laggards in this environment?
I mean, I think it depends on your industry, your age, everything, things like that. If you're at the twilight of your career, you don't have to learn to adopt AI. Just ride it out. You're fine. Send those badly worded emails with, 5 periods at the end of every sentence, whatever it is. Doesn't really matter. I think if you're younger, coming into college or just coming out of college, going into college, whatever it is, middle of your career, you have to adopt AI. It just makes you more efficient. It gets, again, like you said, gets rid of the drone work. So you can kind of just live a happier life. There's some theories out there that your drone work actually makes us smarter and better humans because it teaches us a bit of resilience and that type of thing. But fuck that. No one wants to do drone work.
Yeah. And,
I did it.
well, and let me ask you, because this is my experience, and I'm asking for your commentary on this, again, coming from someone who is deeply ingrained in this and has basically staked your entire career on creating and producing products, not just but products around artificial intelligence. And you have a dev team, that is actively every single day putting fingers on keyboards to create new value in that environment. My first experience of ChatGPT was literally just a conversation, just like, hey, what's going on? And then it would be respond, left thing, what's going on with you? And then like the more information that I put in it, therefore the more valuable it is. And that's kind of a catch-all term for AI in general. The more information that you provide, the greater the value that comes back to you. We, society, I think particularly, those of us in technology have a base level fear about providing information and being too free with. But the more I give ChatGPT, the more it's relevant to me. Therefore, it's now become a non-negotiable. It knows enough about me where, I can ask questions, and it has so much context that it gives me answers that are far beyond what I had thought in the moment. So in that, the question around security, the question around fear and excitement, and I think if there's anything that would maybe frame our continual conversations on this podcast, it would be balancing the, oh my God, the world is ending, with the, oh my God, the world is just beginning, in terms of how we utilize technology. I mean, I just said a lot, but I mean, from a user perspective, I'm daily having to kind of negotiate that myself. Like, how much do I want to devote to this, and how much of my personal life do I want to give to this, what is essentially a big thinking computer? And I guess the internal dialogue I have with myself is this okay?
I mean, it is okay. I think, for technology to evolve, especially for us to use it, we're going to have to give our information to it, right? I mean, that's just the way it works. Or else it's going to be more or less useless to us in a personal level, right? And that's fine. I mean, it's okay to be scared of new technology, have a healthy dose of, mistrust for new technology. And I think most people do, generally. But eventually we all just adopt it as it becomes commonplace, right? There's when Alexa first launched in Canada, it was 2019, I think it was. They did a study, and 40% of Canadians no, sorry, 70% of Canadians said would not want Alexa in their home because they don't trust it. It's always online. It's going to listen to our conversations, blah, blah, blah. Within a year, 40% of households in Canada had an Alexa. So it's one of those things, everyone's always skeptical, always fearful, but you don't want to be left behind. So you end up adopting the technology anyways. And in a way, it mostly makes your life better. I mean, Alexa is a pretty cool technology. I mean, it was in 2019. I can say, hey, Alexa, play some music, and play some music for me, change the channel, whatever it is, lower my lights. It just helps us along. Sure, it listens a little every once in a while, and it'll send me ads for like Rogaine and stuff, which is great.
Yeah.
You know,
But there are, even though it's an exciting time, and I guess I'd just, play the other side of that, is there are people that should be concerned. I mean, there's a short list that off the top of my head, I think regulators should be concerned with the advance and the rapid advancement of AI. And I think that there are people who are the Luddites, who want to destroy it and go back to 1950s, when, we all sit on the front porch and tell stories to each other. And then I guess there's the rank and file customer support agent, or the rank and file, the person whose job literal is, putting sprockets on wheels and so forth. I mean, that's just my list. I mean, who would you say needs to be a little concerned with the pace of technology and AI? And not necessarily they're going to lose their jobs, but they need to pivot.
I mean, anyone who does like menial tasks, if you do data entry, not customer support necessarily, because there's always another level of customer support, high touch, that type of thing, that AI probably won't want to touch. But I would say most organizations need to have healthy respect for it, at least, right? I don't think anyone's really planned well enough, or at least has planned enough around the advancement of AI, because it's moving so quickly that the plans you made 6 months ago with the committee that took you 5 months to do, they're useless now, right?
Right.
And I think that's probably, how do you protect your data? If you're going to not protect your data, how do you monetize your data for AI? How do you stop your workforce from using AI? Because I guarantee everyone is feeding personal company data into ChatGPT, or at least a good portion of your workforce is, right? And how do you stop that? Then with every other new AI model that comes out, does your IT team just like start blocking out every single new AI model? Stuff like that's not possible. So you have to have a pretty robust strategy, and probably someone who's involved in that space to lead that, right? Like you need someone who's on cutting edge AI, who's up to date on cutting edge AI to lead that part of your team or that part of your company. That's where my concerns would lie. I mean, you hear these big companies, Meta just came out today and they said they're going to cut, 14,000 jobs over the next few years and replace them with AI. Those people will find new jobs. There's going to be new tech startups coming out and that type of thing. But it's the companies themselves that need to protect them, protect your data, find out some strategies. That's where I'd be fearful if I was a big company, a big corporation.
Yeah. You and I work in real estate, and it's just a matter of fact that there's 1.6 million, or whatever the number is today, but it's very close to that, 1.6 million licensed agents in the U.S. at least. I know through my work, and I've shared this with you a few times, is that 30% of those people at minimum are not active. They're not creating value. They're not even in the business. They just hold a license in order to, maybe someday they'll sell a house. So I think that's a population, and I wouldn't say that AI is going to replace a real estate agent, because there's no such thing as a regular transaction, much like when you go buy a car, or when, you home improvement projects. I mean, those are things that just, nothing ever goes according to plan, and there's a lot of money being spent. So I'm not concerned that AI would replace a real estate agent, to use our industry's example. But I do think that the ones that are really good at it are about to get a lot better. And the ones that are not very good at it are going to get washed out. And probably you need to go do something different. But so, in terms of the everyday regular office cubicle person. I think if you take advantage of AI at this point, which is kind of where I was going with can you be late to this party and because we've skipped the adoption phase. Usually technology kind of moves through this period where you have a very slow growth and but we've gone directly. You're using AI whether you know it or not in a lot of interactions online now. But I think for the average person, the average 9 to 5, get up in the morning and drive to an office and into a cube and do work. You're to have a decision to be made right now. And I'm using real estate agents as an example of this. Learn as much as you can about AI as quickly as possible. I wouldn't say you need to learn, how language models work and that kind of thing, although that wouldn't hurt. But you could also understand, when I sit down with a blinking cursor using Gemini or ChatGPT or any other model, how can it help me? How can it help me be better than what I am right now? How would you support that?
So what I always tell people is find something that sucks in your day-to-day life, and then just ask Google or even ChatGPT, look, how could I improve this with AI? Very simple. Man, I hate analyzing spreadsheets. I mean, I did data analytics for a long time, which counterintuitive, but I hate it. So, I built a couple AI tools myself. I can do that, obviously. To do that, my wife hates drafting emails, so she uses, I think it's Gemini she uses to help draft her emails, right? To fit her corporate email policy structure, whatever it is, right? Just find something that sucks in your life, your day to day, that you're like, man, if I could get rid of this, I would be this much more effective, or this much more happier. I just have a better life if I can stop doing this. And then just find a way to do it. Ask AI how to do it. And it'll give you some examples and, find some tools and get it done for you. If you hate doing marketing, if you hate, posting your photos up, if you're a real estate agent, you hate posting your photos up on LinkedIn and Instagram, find a tool that does that. If you hate writing CMAs, find a tool that does that for you. Whatever it is, find something you dislike and then solve it.
Yeah, I have a good example from recent history. I just filed my taxes last month. Don't judge me. I know I'm late. But I went to see my accountant who just is down the street from me, and we're friends and we're just chatting, and he's asked me what's going on, and told him I was doing some advisory work for you guys, and he was like, what is it? And I was explaining. He was getting real excited. And he's an accountant, so 99% of his day is repetition, drudgery, filling in, making decisions to help small businesses figure out how to save money and so on. And he was very concerned that AI eventually was going to make his job, obsolete. And he's a young man. So he's like, what do you think? I said, well, you're Greg, you're awesome. And I don't think a robot is going to replace you. And I'm saying that because I'm trying to be nice in the moment. And he's, literally providing a service. But then I left, I came back home and I just went to ChatGPT and I said, hey, if you're an accountant, give me some good news from my friend Greg, who's the accountant. And I got this laundry list of things, what I would do as an accountant, blah, blah, blah. And I emailed it to him and he freaked out. He was like, oh my God, I'm going to go to ChatGPT and I'm going to really dig into this and figure out how to make my business better. And I think that is a great example of if I were in business and I were not working in, with an AI company currently, I would go and really dig deeply into, essentially putting into ChatGPT everything I do right now. Here's my job. Here's my day. Here's my week. Here's my month. And getting suggestions on how to incorporate AI into that process as quickly as possible. Not only just to make myself more educated on how AI can help as a tool and give myself a leg up over someone who does similar work to me, but just so I have a working knowledge of the technology itself. To be honest, Kurtis, I think at this stage, a lot of people are reluctant about AI because the headlines and the media has created a lot of paranoia around what, the singularity, the eventualities that AI could be dangerous to us. And that's just in my findings, getting out there on the internet and just trying to learn more about AI. There's a lot of negative press around the topic.
Yeah, I don't know if that's, limited to AI though. There's always negative press about every new technology that comes out. Pretty much any topic. There's people who support it, people hate it, and they war. the naysayers always seem to get more press because you know, happy news doesn't really sell as well. My personal opinion. It's not as clickbaity. You know, AI is going to destroy us all. Oh, that sounds interesting. Click. Um, you know, but I don't think it will. I honestly think what it will do for us as you know, as employees or workers, whatever it is, um, it'll give us that extra day off. You know, everyone keeps talking about if you work a 4-day work week, you'll be much happier. I think AI is the one way we can actually get there. Be twice as productive, but you get an extra day off every week because you got all these automations built into your workflow, which is fantastic. We're always going to need humans for pretty much most jobs. You know, yeah. So I think AI is just going to help us just be a little happier, a little more efficient.
Well, I agree with you. I think we, over the last 10 years at least, I mean, we don't need to get political here, but I do think that clickbait is far more effective when it's something you're afraid of than it's something you're excited about. Okay, well, on that subject, what are you learning about? What are you reading about? What are you digging into that's work related, that's, AI focused? And what might you suggest to people out there who are today feel like they're behind and want to catch up? How would you suggest that they maybe study up a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, study up a little bit, find some cool blogs, find some good podcasts. I can't recommend any podcasts, unfortunately, because I don't listen to AI podcasts. I do follow a couple interesting blogs. Towards Data Science is one of my favorite if you really want to geek out on AI. Speaking of which, I was reading yesterday, I can't remember what it was, about Meta's new learning models. Meta's working on these self-evolving models, basically, where they teach themselves mid-task. It's called MTT. I'm trying to remember what it stands for. Hold on. Meta training. Nope, can't remember. Anyways, so essentially, it trains itself while it's performing a task. It creates these little mini tasks that it analyzes while it's actually pouring through data or doing some prompts, and fine tunes itself. It doesn't have to actually go and update the core model. It does it on the fly. So it's all these little learnings. It does it instantly available. So as an example, with our product, someone's asking a question, how do I write a CMA, let's say, right? It'll respond back, but at the same time in the background, it's training itself on all these small little tasks. They're called auxiliary tasks. Basically little mini practice problems that's running in the background. Thousands and thousands of them, basically. And from those learnings and the practice prompts, it'll fine tune itself, and up that answer we asked it, or that question we asked it, will actually be updated on the fly from non-data, let's say. It's very, very advanced stuff, but it's pretty amazing. So we can have all these self-learning models after. We don't have to keep training with brand new data off the internet. They'll basically teach themselves as they go, which is massive if it ever actually works out at scale.
No, that sounds cool.
I didn't explain that properly at all, and I apologize.
Well, I was just going to say, I think I understood about a quarter of what you just said, but I'm glad that you added that. And what I also would suggest is, we're going to do this segment every time we talk, is that kind of what we're reading or watching or listening to make us smarter about the topic. And we can probably give our producer extraordinaire, Clark, some links, and he can put links into the show notes. So I'm reading 2 books. Well, I just got to finish with 2 books, and one of them is a Future Proof by Kevin Roose, which is 9 Rules for Surviving in an Age of AI. It's a little, I'm not going to, fear mongering is a little too strong of a word, but it is leans heavily towards the how to insulate yourself, from the robot apocalypse. And then Harvard Business Review did a really cool, this is like an airplane book on AI. Some of the information is slightly dated, but again, these are good starting points. It's just to kind of orient yourself into the world. And you're right. There are lots of podcasts on AI, and very few of them are really any good. It's very different to have online, very difficult to have a podcast about AI that attempts to keep up with what's going on. So there's, from that perspective, I think learning about AI, you can start 3-4 years ago and you'll be just fine because you're getting a foundation of information. Trying to keep up with what's happening on a day-to-day basis, you might as well just scroll your news feed. It's very difficult to do that. But I do love, I have been reading a lot. And then what's interesting is I can go to ChatGPT and I can say, hey, give me 4 books to orient myself on AI, and boom, there they were. And I ordered them all. And this was, that was one of them. So, and we'll add some links in our show notes there. Another recurring segment that I would like to do as we close out here is what's kind of concerning you right now, that maybe recent news or maybe something that you've been thinking about for a while that might really be a fear of yours as we move forward with the technology.
Honestly, it's the unethical use of AI. Scares me. Humans, a lot of humans are not great people. I feel like that's maybe an understatement. But yeah, the unethical, unchecked use of AI is, very scary. From things like, pornography, which, is terrifying for people. Being able to generate videos of whoever doing whatever, right? That is scary and needs to be checked. From things like Grok or XAI answering questions on Twitter, but being tweaked to align more with Elon Musk's view of reality as opposed to everyone else's view of reality, right? That should not happen. Grok went insane last week, and again, it was calling itself Hitler and Meta Hitler. And then this week it went insane and pretended it was like a waifu, I think, which is like an Asian, Japanese doll. I don't know. I'm not up to, anyways. One of my friends was trying to explain it to me. But that is because it's being edited on the fly by, Grok engineers, whatever it is, to conform to a value set, I guess, that goes against basically all the other training it has. So it's freaking out and conflicting and going out these weird answers. But that type of stuff, people believe generally what AI tells it. People believe what they see. People believe images. Our last election here in Canada had all these fake images of both parties, or actually all 3 parties. They're all AI generated all over social media. And the older generation doesn't know how to distinguish between what's an AI generated image and what's not, right? And that's scary because that's going to influence, pretty much everything, right?
Right.
Yeah, so unethical use of AI generally keeps you up at night. I don't think governments have done enough to fight that. And I'm generally not a big fan of big government, but in this case, there has to be restrictions. Meta announced today that they're not going to sign on to the European Union's AI program for ethical AI. They said a whole laundry list of reasons. Some of them valid, some of them not. But yeah, that's what scares me.
I'm going to be a lot more specific and selfish in what scares me about AI. Right. Is that, again, as a musician, it's been a week or 2 now that I at least got exposed to this story, but there's apparently on Spotify a band with a full album that is completely AI. The images, the songs, all the marketing, and they have over 750,000 monthly listeners. So what is scary to me, because those 750,000, they're not real people. Spotify created this thing out of nowhere. They propped this up. The songs are plastic. It sounds like they're, formulaic from hundreds of thousands of data points from popular songs and mashed into one. And of course, the pictures are obvious, AI generated pictures of hipster looking dudes, and the scary part isn't that happened. That is scary on its own. The scary part is that this is the beginning of that, is that it looks and sounds like AI, and it's clearly that from a distance by any objective, measurement. But we're going to enter a season, if we haven't already started to enter that season, where there are bands, artists, material, sitting out there on the internet that has been AI created and we cannot tell. And this is what you were talking about. I mean, the overall scope here, I think, is the unethical use of AI. We're both covering that. I'm just covering it in my little, corner niche of the world. And I think art is in trouble. However, I think on the other side of that, like any overcorrection, we are going to see that human art now takes on much, much greater value. Maybe this is the way that we ultimately get to paying artists and musicians fairly. If we throw out a bunch of fake, then real becomes much more valuable.
Yeah. I mean, you could see the burnout even on like LinkedIn with people posting all these AI generated pictures for every single post. There's got to be a cartoon AI generated image, and people are just getting fed up with it, right?
Yeah.
So hopefully that happens everywhere. Especially with music and art and that type of thing, right? If you're analyzing a spreadsheet, sure, have AI do it. That's fine, but creativity still should be a human trait, I think.
Well, and look, I go back to what we said earlier. I think the people who should not be necessarily afraid of AI is even if you have a job that you think does not require creativity, it does. That's what humans bring to human interactions is flexibility, and that's a form of creativity. So again, if there's a baseline theme for what we talk about as we go forward, this episode and others, it's that balancing this fear versus optimism about the technology that we're discussing. Okay, I'm gonna give you what I'm excited about, and then you can give me what you're excited about. The positive aspect of this conversation would be, I used ChatGPT. I'm relocating. What you can't see in this frame right now is that everything on either side is absolute chaos. Like all of my possessions have now been put in boxes in the center of every room in my apartment, and it's ugly. But see, there, approved. But I used ChatGPT starting about 6 months ago to orchestrate my entire relocation. I mean, from picking movers to helping me plan the order of operations here. I hate moving so much, because of the chaos it generates. And ChatGPT has absolutely taken care of most of that chaos. I mean, there's still me. I got to pick up boxes and put them on a truck. But like the lease that I signed, the process of getting a driver's license is, arduous and confusing. And it gave me, here's what you got to go to the office with. Here's how much it's going to cost you. Here's when to go. Here's a link on creating an appointment because, they get full and so on and so on and so on down the list. It has been absolutely amazing how easier ChatGPT has made this process.
Yeah, no, I definitely see that. I mean, probably cut a few humans out of the process, right, for you? Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah, that's great. What I'm excited about, that's a tough one. I'm not a naysayer, but because I build AI tools, but I'm excited for more of a geeky thing, let's say. I'm excited for AI in video games. I love video games. Don't have enough time to play them. I have a list of games I need to play. But a big fan of like role-playing games, tactical RPGs, that type of thing. If I could get AI, to voice some of these non-playable characters, NPCs in video games, make it a bit more interactive, make the storyline a little more fluid, that really excites me. You get more of a true open world feel to a lot of these games. As long as the models can keep up and the memory and everything can keep up, I think that'll be really exciting. So that the little bit of time off I have to play some games, a bit more enjoyable.
God, I used to be a big video game guy, and I recognized that I could get sucked in, and it could really become a problem. That's what I would be worried about. Is it like some amazing, like I'm a big college football guy, and EA Sports just re-released NCAA college football like for the first time in like 15 years. If that became like truly immersive, I think I would have an issue, Or like I used to play this game Destiny. Are you familiar with Destiny? Like an amazing,
100%, yeah.
And if if these games really get, much more immersive, it may be a problem for my life. you know?
Yeah. Can you imagine you have the VR set on? You're in the huddle with some other guys, and they're swearing at you, threatening you. You're dead, Fowler. You're dead. It'd be like amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hey, we just recorded our very first podcast episode. And I think it went pretty well. What do you think?
Yeah, hopefully. We may have to cut out like 95% of my part. That's fine.
No, we did pretty good. I like this format. I think we did just fine. So, hey, we're going to come back with episode 2, where we're going to come up with more interesting things to talk about. Thanks to VoiceLip for sponsoring this whole thing. Thanks for people listening. If you enjoyed this, please give us a like, mash that subscribe. I don't know. That's what you say when you have a...
No, don't do that.
Slam that subscribe button. I don't even know what that means.
But if you also hated it, let us know too, because or give us
I'll tell you what,
constructive feedback.
Yeah, if you loved it, email me and tell me how much you loved it. If you hated it, tell Kurtis. How's that?
There you go. It's perfect.
All right. Hey, thanks everybody. Thanks for successfully completing your first episode of Under the Hoodie. We'll see you next time. Bye, Kurtis.
Thank you, Bill. See you, Bill.